Oh, here we go. We're getting started. There we go. Thank you. First of all, I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for being here for our workshop here on Parklets. And tonight we're going to just go through a quick PowerPoint presentation, ask some questions and answers. We have some survey items in the back that we'll be going over, and so we'll just kind of go ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody. My name is Dave Hannum. I'm the planning manager here at the city of Pinole. I'm here with Justin Shue, associate planner, who's running the Zoom portion of our meeting tonight. So we'll just go ahead and get started. So basically tonight we're talking about outdoor dining and parklets in Pinole, and for some of you who don't know, the city did have some parklets. If you want to go to the next slide, Dave. Kind of go to the background. Here we go. There we go. Just kind of give in terms of what the city of Pinole has done in the past. There are a couple shopping centers that have what we would call outdoor dining. Some existing businesses. Bear Claw has a little bit. The Sabor 17 on San Pablo has some outdoor dining. There's a little bit of outdoor dining in the Pinole Vista Shopping Center near Target and Ike's Sandwich Shop. So there's a little bit of it in town. And really, the outdoor, there wasn't a whole lot of requirements prior to 2010. And then, because that's really when we established, and it was very small code section within our municipal code that we started the whole outdoor dining process. Parklets have been around for a long time in different communities, not necessarily here in Pinole, but in the Bay Area in Walnut Creek, Livermore, some of the other Bay Area cities have had parklets for years and years. And with the background in Pinole, with the onset of COVID-19, of course, the city council directed staff to, through an emergency ordinance, to authorize temporary use permits for outdoor dining parklets. And as a product of that, 10 businesses took advantage of that. There were 10 temporary use permits that were issued for outdoor dining. We had 9 within public parking lots, which were on private property, and then 1 we had just outside here at Sue's, which we call in the right of way, or a public parklet. Actually, there aren't any more anymore. The temporary order expired, and all of the parklets or outdoor dining areas that were approved as part of the 2020 temporary use permits have all gone by the wayside. Next slide, please. Thank you. So kind of what we're looking at in terms of the purpose of outdoor dining and parklets is we want to develop policies to develop public and private projects. High priorities to give and creating comfortable, enjoyable, aesthetically pleasing public spaces. We also want to help clarify and provide standards for parklets for the city of Pinole, so merchants sort of have a understanding if they are to do outdoor dining or if they are to want to do a parklet, that we have certain guidelines that we'd adhere to, and of course, which would also enhance our quality and safety of the pedestrian experience in the downtown, as well as other shopping areas, depending on where these outdoor dining and parklets are. And where did we come up with this kind of stuff? Well, in our specific plan, these goals are consistent with the vision in our 3-corridor specific plan. There was a lot of discussion in the downtown corridor of San Pablo and Pinole Valley Road, which offer a little bit of guidelines, but they're just not where we need to be. And so by developing this program, we'll have a clear-cut vision of what we mean in terms of parklet and outdoor dining area. Next slide, please. So what does the city have currently? Well, basically, this is it right here. This is our ordinance that we have. It's approved by an administrative design permit. It requires findings that are to be required. They encroach, most of them, outdoor dinings do not allow for parklets or in the public right of way. All these outdoor dining regulations are based off of being on the sidewalk or within parking lots of existing businesses. And so there's really, that's what ours does. It's approved by an administrative use permit, which is more like an administrative hearing or that doesn't have to go to the planning commission or to the city council, but it does have a public hearing kind of process with the administrator review. If you go to the next slide, Dave. So for tonight, our topics of discussion are to kind of like define the categories of our outdoor dining on sidewalks, sidewalk dining areas and parking spaces in the right-of-way or on public property or parklets, and on private property outdoor dining area. It's also to establish a permitting process for outdoor dining, including opportunities for public input, annual reviews or inspections, one-time or annual fees, maintenance of liability. So this is kind of a way to reach out to the community to see kind of what type of governance or building framework that we're looking at, and also using the 3 corridor specific plan in our zoning ordinance to describe locations where different categories of outdoor dining areas allowed through our permitting process. So that's another thing, is to also take a look at where can we put these things, where can they go and how, and whether they're just either in shopping centers or even along our public right of ways. So go to the next slide, please. Thanks. And also to establish kind of our standards. That's what we want to do tonight, is kind of look at our standards and look for design and materials. What do we want these things to look like? We want guardrails, do we want blocks? Do we want heavy, air circulation, allow heating or outdoor furniture? What type of things do we want to include as part of our ordinance? And also establish standards that address the use for hours. Is it just for the business itself? Is it for the public at large? Who's responsible for maintenance? Consider encouraging other elements such as public art, bike parking within these elements, and also to address the transition from a temporary outdoor area to permanent outdoor area. So can businesses just have during business hours their own outdoor dining area, and then at the end of the day, when they're done, they clean it all up and the sidewalks are clear? So those are all types of topics of discussion that we could have tonight, and also will be a part of our new ordinance for outdoor dining and parklets. Go to the next slide, please. So to kind of category definitions, what are all these things we're talking about in terms of sidewalk, or how we're defining the spaces? We're basically saying sidewalk dining areas is basically these are located on public and private sidewalks. So if you have a sidewalk between two businesses that aren't on a street, have it there on a public sidewalk, which we would consider for just directionally, for those was like, let's say in front of Antlers or Pear Street Bistro or Antlers, just kind of on that public sidewalk. So it would be considered the areas. The private outdoor dining areas, these are normally defined as areas that are located on private property that serve a restaurant or cafe, and they may be incorporated in private parking lots, outdoor patios, recessed entries immediately adjacent to the public right-of-way, and alleys adjacent to the operating business. So for example, when Pear Street Bistro had their temporary one, they had it between the bank and their restaurant, right? So that's considered like a patio or a breezeway through there. Or similar to what Tina's had. Tina had one in their actual parking lot behind their business. So those are kind of more of the private outdoor dining areas, or the chairs between Bear Claw around the corner, kind of where their open windows are. So that would be considered either, alleys or adjacent areas. And of course, parklets. And normally parklets are areas that are basically within the curbside parking spaces within the street that converted to public seating platforms. They're intended to provide amenities, green space, or communities, or recreational areas to the public in some places. And of course, the purpose of those is for the community by using the public space for aesthetic amenities. The one that we had was on Sue's restaurant, which was just outside here, City Hall, which was actually in the street right of way. That would be a quoted definition of a parklet. Okay, next slide, please. And we'll go to the next one. Okay, sidewalk dining area. So kind of gives you a picture of that's what we're kind of looking at when we talk about sidewalk dining area and how we define it. It's on the sidewalk itself. There's usually a passageway between the tables and chairs to allow pedestrians to pass through the area. We go to the next slide, please. And that's another example of what sidewalk dining would look like for the city. And we go to the next slide. So this is what we would consider our private outdoor dining area. So as you can see, it's right outside the business. It's set up right outside the doors within the private area of the business itself. And so that's so similar to what we would call a private dining area. Go to the next slide, please. And of course, again, this is outside another business. And as you can see, it's within the parking lot of the business of the Sunrise Dollar Saver. So it's would be considered a private outdoor dining area. However, it would just be used for the business that is prepared the tables and the chairs and all that. Okay, go to the next slide. And of course, the parklet. So this is kind of what a parklet looks like, and we'll have a number of different of examples of this. So this is just one. As you can see, it's on a platform. It's kind of raised to show the allow drainage to go underneath. It's an extension of the sidewalk in this case. Actually, this one is a little different. This one actually covers a portion of the sidewalk, but it actually extends out into the right-of-way, or what we call the parking area on the roadway. Go to the next slide, please. And there's another parklet. Now this one is definitely in the road right-of-way. As you can kind of see, the ramp that kind of goes up into it. So that whole structure is on within the parking right-of-way of the street. So as you can see, plants, tables, chairs, the overhang. There's all different types of designs, and we'll kind of get into that a little later. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So in terms of, and I'm probably going, if you have any questions, and I know there's a big audience here, if you have any questions, please stop me, ask me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Or if there's anybody online that has a question or anything like that, just plug in your question and we'll answer them as we go. So we got a huge crowd here tonight, so we just want to make sure we get everybody in. And so this next slide talks about kind of establishing a permitting process for our outdoor dining area. These are some of the things we've taken a look at. There's a number of different ways that the city could do this. They could do it through an ministerial permit, which is basically a new outdoor dining permit approved by the planning manager, community development director, public works director within staff realm. We can do a hearing process, which our hearing process in the city of Pinole talks about administrative use permits, talks about conditional use permits, zoning administrator permits, a new outdoor dining permit through the zoning administrator with appeal rights to the planning commission. So that's kind of a much more formal process to go through, and also. It also has the ability to not only be appealed by the Planning Commission, but it also has a process to go to the City Council as well, if it appeals. So, for example, if you go to the zoning administrator and you don't like the conditions of approval or you don't like the way it was handled, you can appeal that to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission then has the ability to either agree with the zoning administrator, modify the permit, or disagree with it wholeheartedly. If the applicant doesn't like that, then they can appeal it to the City Council. So it can go all the way up. Once it's approved administratively, you don't have that appeal process, at least at this point. Doesn't mean we can't build it in, because the ordinance still isn't written. So there's ways to do that, but when we talk about administrative permit, it's basically administrative. The city, really the only appeal right would be directly to the city manager at that point, because it would stay within the administration of the city. You go to the next slide, please. Okay, so I skipped a page. So actually using what we would do is, as part of describing our area, or describing some of the area as part of the ordinance, we would actually use some of the existing documents that we have and not create a whole brand new one. We would use our 3-corridor specific plan and our zoning ordinance, depending on where these outdoor dining areas would go. Be able to describe the locations in different categories of outdoor dining area. We would use a mapping process using GIS, outlining specific areas of the city. We could using our commercial mixed-use zone, our residential mixed-use zone, and our specific plan. We can then, those would probably be the main areas for that. for different styles of outdoor dining, using our regional commercial in areas that are not within our specific plan area. So basically the city, just kind of for some background, the city only really has one commercial zone district that's not within the specific plan, and that's our regional commercial area. Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but I think that's what it is. Just our regional. All the other commercial zone districts that we have are governed by our 3 corridor specific plan. So those would be the 2 main documents that we would use to make these, to define these areas of where we would want these. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're kind of getting into the good stuff. And basically that's in terms of establishing designs and standards and what we can do. On the slides, and we also have some standards on the back wall that some of the I don't know how we'll get the people, but we'll put these online so people can take a look at it after. But basically, do we want, we have to design for materials, size, landscaping, accessibility, circulation, lighting, safety, features, guardrails, wheel stops, visible vertical elements that would allow for kind of like, I don't want to say traffic calming, but at least gives the motorist an idea that there are people in the area, they've got to slow down, and give some type of visual perception to try and make that happen. As well as signage, heating and air circulation within the area itself, and of course the outdoor furniture itself. So making sure that we are able to, we can design all the way down to some features. If there are some features that the applicant or the owner, project owner, or property owner, or restaurant owner would want, at least we have a different a pool of elements that we can use to make these places look good. On the slide itself, we have some heavyweight barriers and lightweight barriers. These are more geared toward our parklets and within the right-of-way, since the parklets themselves, I mean, they're in the street per se. So we have to be able to keep our occupants safe in the parklets and stuff. So these are different alternatives that we would be looking at in terms of the barriers regarding parklets. And then the lightweight barriers, what we would call the vertical elements. The horizontal elements would be the ones that are facing the street, the more heavyweight barriers, but we would use more of the lightweight barriers on the vertical panels of a parklet or outdoor dining area. As you've seen in some areas, they've used small wrought iron fence in some areas, even on the sidewalk to outline and define outdoor dining areas and parklets, and that's something that we can do as well. And then basically establish, if we go to the next slide, please. Or even go on the slide. So go back, Justin. Go back a couple, or Dave, go back a couple of slides. Okay, go to the next one. No. Okay, I'm sorry. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. Okay, there we go. Okay. So again, we're establishing standards. These are some of the standards that we're looking at on the screen. You see more of the lighting or the heating elements, the vertical elements that we've talked about, kind of the railings per se, or the vertical fencing that we would use to establish that, as well as, again, using physical vertical elements and outdoor furniture. Okay, if we go to the next slide, please. So this is an area, these are kind of interesting. So, and we found these, and I'm not quite sure where we found this one exact parklet, but it's a parklet designed by and also include a bike area, which we thought was really interesting because as a lot of cities are doing nowadays in their downtown areas as part of traffic calming at intersections, they're bulbing out their intersections so that they maintain a smaller crossing window for pedestrians to get across the street. Well, in this slide, what they're doing is they're taking advantage of that window, of that bulb out, and creating bicycle parking in the downtown, or in the area where one car would probably be able to park there if they were to do that, along with the parklet. So again, it allows for a different look. It also allows for bicycles and pedestrians to be able to park their bikes in an area that's meant for bikes to be, instead of all over the sidewalk and all that. It has an area. So these are things that we can do and take a look at as part of our program. And so basically what we're looking at in terms of establishing standards that address the use for public access, and that's kind of what the public, if you look at where the bikes are, a lot of cities are using, bike shares, and they're using these areas for bike share, where you drop off the bike or pick up a bike there. And so again, it just lends itself to a lot of different alternatives that we can have here in Pinole. There's no reason why we can't do this, but we've just got to find the right area and be able to mold our streets and our area to be able to allow it to accommodate some of these new things. Okay, so basically what we're looking at here is just try to encourage and other elements such as art and public, bike parking. We would establish some hours. Our owner's going to be allowed to cut access to their outdoor dining areas. A standard agreement with the city and the public right-of-way would probably be needed for liability purposes and all that. So we have to be prepared for that. We go to the next slide, please. Okay, so some other issues that we would have to take a look at is to address the transition from temporary outdoor dining areas to permanent outdoor dining areas. So, we would have to be able to set timetables, maybe converting temporary programs to new programs. We would take a look at working with existing businesses for new design and institute a potential fee deferral program for compliance. A full amnesty program for existing businesses who want to have outdoor dining areas. So these were issues that came up kind of during the COVID time, and some of the areas that people that when they wanted their outdoor dining areas. However, a lot of them took them down once COVID was kind of went away. A lot of them took theirs away. So this is kind of a moot point in some regards. However, it could be that to address if somebody would want to do a temporary one just to see how it works. There we have the ability to say, hey, we're thinking about the restaurant A says, hey, I think we want to do an outdoor area. We want to do a temporary one for let's say 6 months, 9 months, what is that going to entail? And so we can institute and working with the business within our program to be able to, design the program to institute some fee deferrals because they're not putting a permanent one in, they're just doing a temporary one. Maybe a full amnesty program because some of these kind of go by the wayside and we lose track of them and then they become obsolete. So we have an amnesty program involved in that so that we can work with our property owners and work with our business owners to make it work. So go to the next slide, please. Okay, we'll go to Parklets. We go to the next slide. Okay, so this is pure in the street. We're going to talk about the actual parklets now, which are actually in the street, in the right-of-way, in one form or another. These are designed not to be on the extension of sidewalks. These are definitely defined as places being in the right-of-way and using different design features to protect the safety of people who are using the parklet. And so as part of our program, we would look to establish standards for design and materials, size and landscaping. We'd be looking at accessibility, wheel stops, all that kind of stuff to be able to make sure they're safe. We go to the next slide, please. Okay, private outdoor dining area. I think we're coming down to the end. Okay, sources, yeah. Okay, so these are some of the sources that we took some images from. These are cities that have outdoor parklet programs that we're kind of modeling ours after. And so, but again, we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to comment and have a chance to shape our own, so that it becomes an individual program for the city of Pinole, and not just a carbon cookie cutter from somebody else's thing. So with that, that's all I have in terms of a formal presentation. So for the rest of the evening, we've got questions. If you've got questions and answers, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And we also along the back wall, we have some parklets, some design features that we would take a look at to see if something that you're interested in. We got yellow and red dots for red, yellow, green, meaning no, yes, and maybe. I think they're those colors, right, Justin? We'll just put dots. We'll figure it out when we get there. So we got to have some fun in this process. So, but yeah, so that's kind of it for the formal process. Again, any questions on the slide presentation, I'll be happy to answer. And then if not, we can move forward with questions and answers to just for a program in general. So thank you very much, and we'll go from there. All right. Do we have any questions online? All right, great.